got up to MIJ last Friday, which is Man's in a Journey, and I don't know what it's like for you guys. I didn't know what to expect. I remember driving up the road, being nervous, anxious, and then to compare that with the experience when I left on Sunday was extraordinary. So for me it was...
What was the difference?
My personal growth over the weekend, so I was completely out of my comfort zone, and just a whole series of processes that happened over the weekend that enabled me to grow, and for me was just a huge opportunity potential for me now that I didn't see when I started on the Friday. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Yeah.
For me, that ability to get out of the comfort zone was facilitated by a really safe space. The organisers and the facilitators made us feel comfortable 100% of the time to be able to open up, let ourselves be vulnerable and understand a lot more about myself anyway.
I think that comes from the group as well, that we're all, there's a safe atmosphere. So even on the Friday night, pretty early, it's surprising how we opened up a lot. And I think there's a lot of us who are saying some things that we haven't said before to even people we love. So I think that's part of the group, that you share vulnerabilities. And I think partly that's what you come out of from the end of the weekend, that you've been vulnerable, but still been accepted. And you can keep going. You wake up a bit different on Monday morning. I know I certainly felt like Monday, Tuesday, but I felt like I wanted to take up more space in the world a bit more. So there's something about that you're more accepting of yourself. You probably want a bit more from the world rather than retreating from it. So.
What about for you, Darren? What was the weekend like for you?
It was a bit of a roller coaster. I think at the beginning of the weekend I felt very sort of guarded and defensive and dismissive, and by the end of the weekend I felt very open, very expanded, and very connected with other men after hearing all their stories, and it was really fantastic. So that was, for me, it was just this transformation, and as the week has gone by, it's just gone. I feel like I'm expanding more and more and more, and living life a little bit more courageously.
Yeah, it's interesting because as guys we love to grow, and yet I've taken traditional paths in the past which my growth has been sort of stunted. So here took me completely out of my comfort zone, and the growth is just part of the process now. Like it's inevitable, the growth I get.
Yeah.
One of the things that was interesting for me over the weekend, the more vulnerable I was, people kept saying how much stronger I was, which is a paradox for a male.
That's totally true.
Yeah.
And you come away with a lot of questions, but you come away with a lot of directions to go and seek them, and you find out so much about yourself that you want to keep part of the weekend ongoing. I think you just take that with you, and then you're heading off in some new directions, better directions.
To compare what I'm feeling now with how I've been feeling the last few years, say, there's the masks that we wear throughout our lives, and I think if you're finely attuned, you realise that you're doing it, that you're holding back a little bit in your interactions with people, and that doesn't feel natural. But we do it so often that we forget that it's not natural, and now to know what it's like to have that mask removed and to be able to go out into public, interact with my co-workers more freely without any sort of barriers is really liberating, and it's highlighted how much I had been doing it beforehand.
I think that's sort of those masks, those multiple layers that we have, that really sort of really drains your energy, because you're not. I personally don't feel that it's it's not being authentic. You're not allowed, or you don't feel like you're allowed to be authentic. So you put all this energy, unnecessary energy, into create this mask. And it's almost as if this weekend has just dissolved all of that, and therefore I personally feel very much more energised and engaged with myself and the world, which is just an amazing thing, because people just can pick that up, you know.
I love how you say you don't feel like you're allowed to, but now, the last few days, there's no different. No one's stopping you from not wearing that mask anymore.
Well, I think the word permission came up quite a bit over the weekend. We felt like we could give ourselves permission to say some of the stuff and feel some of the stuff and present as a bit more truly as ourselves as well. So.
How does for me the question is how are these masks helping to, how are they serving our happiness? They're not. So it's about looking at different choices and what really serves our happiness, instead of putting these brick walls in between other people. It just blocks what, you know. We all have this thirst, rightness for intimacy and love, but as men we're not allowed to, or we don't know how to articulate that, or to ask for it, and to be vulnerable in that asking, and that actually the vulnerability is a strength, you know, because I'd rather do this and live in the moment and feel like I've got a future, a more positive future, than being dead. You know, I think that's a lot the choice for men. It's not, we might not be physically dead, but you know, we're spiritually dead and numb, and that's not good.
Because the cultural role models that we have in men, in media, in the movies, they're not whole people, and yet we try to imitate them. But we're real people. We can't play these two-dimensional characters in our life and expect to go through life and not face difficulties with that. So we've got to find that depth within ourselves in order to be whole.
I can imagine how this will come across when people are watching it back, because one commitment we made at the end of the weekend was we can't share what specifically happens, because it's literally a magical experience which builds up to a transformation. So yeah, I'll have to hold that commitment dear when people are watching back this video as we speak, and that's a trust, I guess, that they watch back and know that it works. Yeah.
But I could probably only say if any of this resonates with you, then this is the weekend for you, I suppose, to commit. None of us were sure, but we've done it and coming to the other side really certain about